We historically have, yeah, I don't think you'd wanna do them all in
A
one.
one and two can be together or not? Everyone
Yes,
separate or this?
we have done them, I think we've done them both ways. I don't think it
It
matters
doesn't matter.
on the transfers.
Alright. No, you just have Lauren showing, sorry. Sorry. This is my own book. You just have Lauren showing or is there somebody else going out?
I have a Johnson County family that's showing goats for FFA.
You have to head back out there.
But you're done working, are you? You have to work.
Yes and no, I'm not officially working, but, since they added rabbits and poultry to the FFA portion of the show, should the FFA superintendent help me with my show? So I told her I would help her with her show. But she only has, 90 rabbits, which is a win. I mean, we were thinking if they had 50 their first year, that would be great, and she's got 90, ID'd, this one. Which, I had 340 rabbits that we checked in for the state. And
Statewide or
like, for, that one is compete at the state fair.
that's still a lot.
And here's the best part, to see if it's just on, Philip won the whole thing. The whole thing. And Dylan won the poultry show. We have, like, when people walk through our barn, I said, these rabbits and birds will be in the top 10 at the state fair. No, they're the top one.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, oh,
Way to go, boys.
they did awesome.
Steph,
And Addie had,
is that just
her heifer,
just the vote on which one of these?
Oh,
oh,
awesome.
that was great. Yeah, Leah got on purples, she know.
Zero
Probably
challenge,
right.
which is, there's a
You
lot of
probably already
components to
filled
it.
it
And I don't know where she placed overall, but I know she got some purples with her steer and showmanship, and stuff, so,
Be a Christian? Is she
Yeah.
still?
yeah.
Is this her last year?
No, well, she's a senior this year. So she'll show next year.
Test.
So our kiddos did really good out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine,
A couple of my
whatever.
Johnson County girls that
This
should
should be-
kitties made, like they got pinned
This is
to
final
come back
grade.
out
Yep,
for
final
the
grades.
second round of
For
showmanship.
spring, yep.
Yeah, and so that was really good.
Oh, goodness, where'd that year go, huh?
I know.
That's really
Yeah.
awesome.
So Cohen, next year.
Yeah, we were
With
supposed
this
to this
rabbit.
year,
I know.
and he in the butthole.
Polish is one of the breeds that is really exploding.
Is it?
Yeah, because they're so gentle. You know, they're nice little bunnies for kids, especially since we lowered the age to 9. I think that's why I saw a lot more of that breed. But, yeah, I can't remember how many different breeds of rabbits we have.
He doesn't start working with them, we're gonna get rid of them. We can take him to your house. I mean, I'll bring the cages and everything.
Bobby's ready for somebody.
I can drop him off tonight.
No.
Seriously.
With our little boy, I don't know that they would make it till morning. But
See if you can convince Kennedy for that breed.
She doesn't
versus-
want that breed.
I know. And I've got her some bunnies ready. So whenever mom and dad say they can come, I've got her some nice bunnies.
Setting reminders
I still
in
have a
Kylan.
headsack in Hannah's hut, so if somebody's looking for one.
Jesse said he was gonna build one for her.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Is there a motion to declare an open meeting?
I'll make a motion to declare this an open meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jason, second by Mary. Roll call. Bobby?
yes,
Lisa, yes. Hope?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And JW?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 6-0, and the meeting is open. I'd like to welcome everybody. Mr. Niss. Notification of the Open Meeting Act is adhered and posted. Notice of the hearings and meeting posted as required by law. We'll move to the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mary, second by Hope. Mary, do you have any discussion?
No.
Hope, do you have any?
No.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lisa, yes. Hope,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
JW,
Yes.
and Bobby.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Consent agenda is approved. We'll now recess for a public hearing.
I think we, in the past, have done a motion to recess.
Is there a motion to
I'll
recess?
make a motion to recess for the hearing.
Second.
Motion by Jason, second by JW, to recess for a public hearing. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Hope,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
JW,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Lisa, yes. We are recessed for the public hearing.
Well, I don't have anything additional to add from last night. But I'll take any questions that anyone might have.
I have a question.
Sure.
Our depreciation account from the last 2 years is significantly higher, as well as the special building.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, are there plans to use some of that? Is it just kind of set there just to kind of be on hold? Or I guess, why is it so much more this year compared to the last?
Okay, great question. So let's go back to the budget document then, and let's take a look at the first column where it says actual disbursements and transfers for 21-22. So when you look at depreciation, activities, school nutrition, QC Puff, those dollar amounts are the dollar amounts that we actually spent in that fiscal year. So we didn't spend anything out of the building fund the special building fund that year, because there's $0 budgeted. So that's when you start the budget with the 21-22 audit document, you go by the numbers that are in there. And since there are no numbers in there, that means we didn't write any money out of the building fund that year. What we have spent so far in the 22-23 fiscal year are dollars toward the only thing we spent out of there are dollars put toward the VOAG building upgrades. And of course, when we get all those expenses, then we'll reimburse back into the building fund from the ESSER grant. And we've never done that before, at least I don't think that's been done, because this sort of thing has never happened where you'd have the opportunity to spend those type of dollar amounts out of the building fund for federal projects. So we'll have to work that out with Department of Ed, but that's how they've advised to do that. You do it that way because it doesn't interfere with, you don't want to, when you do that sort of thing out of the general fund, it can be done, but it gets a little more, a little hairier. And since that is building fund related types expenses, it just makes sense to do that. Then for the next column, that is the total dollar, if we were to spend every penny, that's every penny that's or estimated, but it's within just a few dollars, I'm sure. It's every dollar that's in there now, and what we anticipate we'll get for additional taxes for next fiscal year into that fund. So typically, when you budget, you're budgeting a max dollar amount that the board is often giving itself permission to spend. So in theory, roughly $526 in the building fund, for example, would be available to spend in the next fiscal year. We could spend all of it, some of it, none of it. We will probably spend a lot out of the building fund because of the ESSER projects that we'll reimburse back into the building fund. Depreciation, historically, we've just kind of set money aside for depreciation. When we have those, things that have been paid for out of the depreciation are typically things like buses. So anytime we bought a new bus or a new minivan, a new passenger van, we pay for that out of there. We pay for, when we resurfaced the track, that was paid for out of there. If we move, we'll have to move forward with something to address the boiler issue because didn't pass inspection. So whatever we do, it'll probably be in the 6 digits. Well, it depends, how we want to approach it. But, my recommendation is probably going to be not to throw $20,000+ at a boiler that may not make it 2 more years. Let's do something either. And so it's probably going to be a 6-digit expense. And so that is replacement. Even if we're replacing with something significantly better than what we had, it's still a replacement, so it's a qualified depreciation expense. We do have, and I'll share that in the coming weeks whenever we are able to have a meeting, either virtually or in person for the buildings and grounds. There's kind of been a ballpark idea of pending projects on the horizon for depreciation. We've paid for the expenses for the press box that weren't covered through the insurance were paid for out of depreciation. Yeah, because we were replacing, typically, I have liked to protect building fund. If we're going to pick between one or the other, if an expense will qualify as an expense for a replacement for depreciation or a special building expense, if we know we've got good cushion in the general fund, maybe we look at doing that. But if we want to protect the general fund, I prefer depreciation over building fund because the building fund does have a little more flexibility. If you ever got in a situation, which we've been close to that, not since I've been in this seat, but since I've been at this table as a board member, we were really close at one point several years back to not being able to make payroll. I think I referenced that last night. You can, rather than go out and get a micro loan from a bank to make payroll, and going through all the paperwork, you can borrow from the building fund. You can borrow from any taxing fund into another one. You just have to pay it back within 2.5 years. So the building fund gives you a little more flexibility in how you can use that money if money's ever tight. But that's the, so that would explain, it's a good question. That money is kind of set aside for structural, fleet-related types of needs as we see them. I will say this, looking into my crystal ball for next year and the year after, I would venture to guess where I'm going to recommend making no transfer into depreciation at the end of, I don't know about next fiscal year, but potentially down the road because things will get tighter. And probably not levy into building fund. So it's kind of one of those deals where you build it up when things are a little more relaxed, and then you take out of it when the money gets a little tighter. You transfer into depreciation, you tax into building fund. You can't transfer into building fund, and you can't levy into depreciation. That's probably more than you asked.
A little bit, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Makes better sense.
You don't have to budget everything, but the way the software or the way the spreadsheet is set up, to not budget everything and make it match and not get errors, you'd have to put negatives in. So they tell you just budget everything that's at your disposal. If you don't spend it, then you're under budget.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing no questions, do we need a motion to come back?
We should at least, even though there's only Mr. Niss here, we we should state that we'll open it for public comment now for a hearing.
Is there any public comment? We're now open. All right, hearing none. Is there a
I make a
motion?
motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jason, second by Hope. Roll call vote. Mary,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
JW,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Lisa, yes, and Hope.
Yes.
The, Public hearing is closed. Moving on to budget and tax request. Item A, consider approving end-of-the-year transfers from the general fund as presented. Item 1, into the depreciation fund, $50,000 from account 2710, regular vehicle operation and purchasing. And item 2, into the activities fund, $30,000 from account 8000 transfer. We will be approving these individually, like A1 and 2, so if there's a motion,
We're doing them individually?
yeah, item A, then B, C, D.
Oh,
Yeah.
A1 and 2 are together though. Okay.
You can do it either way.
I'll make a motion to approve the end-of-year transfers to the general fund as presented in number 1 and number 2.
Second.
Motion by Jason, second by Mary. Jason, any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Mary,
No.
any other discussion?
I would just say that there is a method, or there's a logic to why we transfer from the codes we do. Activity has to be a transfer, because it is a transfer. A depreciation, even though we call it a transfer, in the eyes of the auditors, you're spending money now. You're coding as an expense now, and you're setting it aside for a future need. So we want to make sure, because when we talked about those allowances on the state aid, it's kind of how you play the game a little bit. You want to, on transportation allowance, it's the lesser of the two numbers. It's total route miles driven times the federal mileage reimbursement rate times 4, or 400% is the, but if your actual vehicle expenses are less than that, and then you get the lesser of the two. So you want to make, it's an opportunity to code something as an expense. I think we're safe either way, but I've always put a sizable amount of our depreciation transfer toward vehicles. If you set it aside as a vehicle expense, you can, the Department of Ed says you can reappropriate that with a board motion. So when the board makes the motion to approve through the consent agenda, the expense, they are, in essence, approving the reappropriation of those funds, as long as it's a qualified depreciation expense, which is anything that's replacing something because of depreciation.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, we will vote on item 5A. Jason,
Yes.
JW,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Lisa, yes, Hope,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
motion carried 6-0. Moving on to item 5B, consider approving the 2023-2024 budget as published.
I move to consider approving the 2023-2024 budget as published.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by JW. Mary, any discussion?
No.
JW,
No.
any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will vote on approving the 2023-24 budget as published, starting with JW.
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Lisa, yes, Hope,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
and Jason.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item C, consider approving the 2023-2024 tax request as published.
I make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 tax request as published.
Second.
Motion by Hope, second by Mary. Hope, do you have any comment?
No.
Mary?
No.
Any other comments or questions?
I would just say that doesn't obligate us to participate in the postcard bill. It's the new bill this is the second year of it. Districts that are it's 2% plus real growth, and that's just a number that the assessors give us. So it's new not real growth. It's new, it's a certain kind of growth that involves new structures established that are non-residential. So you get 2% growth, and then plus whatever percent of your valuation increase was due to capital improvements. Maybe that's what it's referred to. If you're over that threshold, then you have to participate in the postcard hearing. They mail a postcard to every taxpayer telling them, go to, on this obnoxious color, and you get it in the mail, and it says you have to come, or if you can come to this meeting, at least one board member has to attend. The county hosts it, and it is a joint meeting of all governing subdivisions that have to participate. So far, Pawnee County hasn't had to do it yet. Unless someone, since the last time I talked to Candy, had to do it for this year, but so far we hadn't. I mean, it's probably not for an extended period of time. It's reasonable to keep, and it's just non-bond funds. So it's just, so for us, that would be the combination of general and building fund. It doesn't limit your growth by 2%, but it does basically gives you one more hurdle that you have to jump through. And it's a pretty tight timeline that you have to hit that hearing and then get your budget approved. It would certainly move this meeting back later in the process. Just want to point that out, especially if state aid goes down, that's probably a bridge we'll have to cross sooner than later.
Any other questions? If not, we are voting to approve the 2023-24 tax request as published. Bobby?
Yes.
Lisa, yes. Hope?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
JW?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 6-0. Item D, consider approving the 2023-24 tax request resolution as presented.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 23-24 tax request resolution as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jason, second by JW. Jason, any comment?
No, ma'am.
JW,
No.
any other comment?
Sorry. Yeah,
that's-
this was just
sorry.
something that was added also a few years back. The unicameral said you have to, after you approve your budget and then you approve your tax request, you basically have to approve a resolution saying you approve of doing what you just approved. It's, I think it's just was intended to be one more, I don't know. I don't like how the senators will sometimes blame school board members. It's not like you've got some kind of a cushy deal here with a paid job and benefits. You're coming here as volunteers who get it's, why put hurdles in your place to disencourage you to want to be in public office. It feels like they're targeting the wrong people. But nonetheless, it is another hurdle. There's a fourth restriction put in place this year. It's called property tax request authority. That, and it's a very soft cap. It's 3% increase on non-bond fund revenue, but you can grow that up to 7% for a district our size, under 250 student, no, it's more than that. Maybe it's 400. It's under 450 students, you can grow it by up to 7% by a 70% vote of the board, which in our case, of the whole board, not the board present, which in our case would be 6 out of 7 board members. Now, I'm going to ask the board, not because we need it for this budget, but it's kind of like property tax authority, or spending authority, you want to protect that, just in case down the road you would need it. So you can put that in, and it would carry it forward as the new starting point next year. They said that they think that the unicameral is going to do away with that, so if we're going to take advantage of being able to carry forward unused property tax authority, this is probably the only year that we'll be able to do it. So I didn't realize that you have to have the notice of that in the paper 7 days prior to the meeting, so it wouldn't have been in the paper in time to do it at this meeting legally. So as long as it's before that September 20th deadline, we're okay. So I intend to have that on the agenda for the September 11th regular meeting. It won't change anything. If it would, not pass, the only impact it would have is it would lower starting point in future years. So that doesn't have anything to do with this, but it's a new thing it's a fourth, there's effectively 4 different caps or limits or barriers to either spending or taxing that are in effect. Your $1.05 total without a budget levy override vote. Your total spending authority without a spending authority override vote. The postcard bill, which is the 2% plus real capital growth, or you have to participate in the hearing, and now the property tax request authority, which is 3% for schools our size, which can be increased up to 7% with a 70% vote of the board.
So we just have this opportunity it's basically setting a baseline.
Setting a new baseline, and all it will do is it'll change, when I upload this all into the report that goes to the Department of Ed, it has a check, did your board approve a resolution to increase its property tax request authority? And if yes, then by how much? And if it's, and that'll carry forward to the start of next year. In all likelihood, we won't need it next year, but it's one of those things, if you don't take advantage of it, you may not have the opportunity to down the road.
Similar to what I was talking to you about last night with SCC taking that opportunity.
It's exactly the same, I would suspect.
Okey-doke.
The difference is with SEC is after this year, their funding is going to come
Yeah,
from different
a tax
sources.
levy. Yeah. But okay. You'll give us more information.
It will, yeah, I just wanted to plant that. I know I put it in my reports, but I still wanted to plant that seed. So when you
Yeah.
see it on the agenda, you'll have an idea of what that is.
All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote for approving the 2023-24 tax request resolution as presented. Starting with me, Lisa, yes. Hope,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
JW,
Yes.
and Bobby.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Jason, second by Bobby. Okay, roll call vote. Hope,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
JW,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
Lisa, yes. Motion carried 6-0. Meeting is adjourned.